whatever, if you want a 30% margin, you have to actually have like it increases it to that'd be increased to like $170 or something like that. Because it's like calculated backwards. Because you want at the after the transaction takes place, the margin is the percentage of the total transaction value that you want in profit.
Mm-hmm.
So no, that screws over a lot of people if they think that
me
they're
included.
calculating
Yeah, me included.
markup.
I was marking up like for a couple years. And I was like, well, I don't have any money. It's because it was markup, not margin.
Yeah, because the markup will be a much smaller amount of money. Like you'll think you're able to put 50% on a markup and think, oh, I'm going to make 50% profit. That's not how that works. You're making
33%.
Yeah, 33%. So it's
Yep.
like, so that's really, really, really important. So Proline is all based around profit margin, which is the correct way to calculate it. So we have profit margin, which is based on labor and materials. And then we were just talking about gross profit. So that's for gross profit for you, that's where you're taking out everything. So the gross profit is going to be lower than your actual profit margin because you are taking out those additional items like commission and marketing if you can directly attribute it to the job.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So this is a huge thing. People think they have a certain, going back to what I said in the beginning, people think they have a large margin and a large profit, like amount, gross profit per job. But you really need to understand at the end of the day, do you have money? You have cash from that job. And it's usually something related to your overhead you don't understand, your direct costs you don't understand, and you may be getting confused markup versus margin.
Yeah. Okay. So after you've calculated gross profit, so if you do a job and you have $5,000 in gross profit at the end of the day. All right. So from there, let's talk about what is net profit. I think this is a little harder to calculate.
It is very hard to calculate. In general terms, net profit is what the organization decides to do with that gross profit. So this can be things like, do you have a expensive office space? Do you have expensive trucks? How do you spend that gross profit? It's your decision to take that bag of money, and then you want to decide how much you want to spend of it to have even like the little bit left over after all of that. After your overhead's been paid, salary's been paid, all of your costs that are associated with your business, how much has been paid from that gross profit bag at the end of the year, into the quarter, into the month, what's left over after that. So you need to understand your like monthly budgets, your quarterly budgets. You need to understand like annual budgets. If you don't understand that intimately, and you're not even adding if you add a $50 a month subscription to some software, that's $600 a year. You have to understand all the dollars. If you don't, you're not going to have any net profit left over. Even your accounting is going to show you have a net profit, and you're going to have $0 in the account because you don't understand.
If you didn't account for every one of those costs.
Correct.
Well, that's really tempting as a business owner. I mean, I know this is like, you see all that money sitting in an account and you're like, oh yeah, I can spend money on X or Y. And you do that a few times or 10 times. And then you're like going to the end of the month being like, where did my money go? And it's like, you have to keep track of every single dollar spent. Okay. So and all that money gets deducted from your total gross profit for all jobs. And then that's your net profit, right?
Yep. In a nutshell.
So let's talk about actual targets here. So let's go back to the profit margin on your quotes. So this is the money left over after just paying for labor and materials. For the profit margin, what do you believe is a responsible, ideal profit margin for roofing contractors to be using on their quotes?
All right, that's an interesting way to put it. Everyone's going to say, well, my market's different, or my customers are different, or whatever the case may be. I would say that I'm still not achieving the highest level of profit margin that I need to achieve in my businesses. Like, we can all shoot for higher numbers, and it's not about greed. It's not about I want more and more money. It's about giving your end customer the best experience you can possibly give them. If you're a good steward use that money the right way with the right marketing strategies, you need to have an incredibly high profit margin. If you think, well, they're just not going to pay it, all the excuses that people have, it comes down to like a value proposition. You're not presenting the value that you bring to other people. Well, we're all installing the same roofs. We'll have the same, we're all whatever, GAF master elites. We're all GF. Okay. You have to differentiate yourself, figure out a way to do that in every market. And you can demand a higher profit margin, and people do it to us. They have been doing it for us for years where, well, you're the highest one. You're the highest one. You're the highest bid we have out of 5 bids. The way we do that is because what
But then
I
they sign
believe,
with you,
they
right?
sign with us. Yeah. Can you work with us? No, people do ask to work with us. We'll say, okay, look, would you trust me less if I lowered my price? And then that makes them think. They're like, oh yeah, I want to get the value that you're bringing. I don't want to devalue you right now by taking $500 off, $1,000 off, whatever the number is. You have to be confident in your own margin. This all comes back to like knowing your numbers, knowing what your overhead is, knowing how much your marketing costs. If you know all that and you actually, from leadership, take it all the way down to your sales people, even your admin, accounting, all the people that are on your team, you'll have less like upset teammates because like, why are we making so much money? Well, they understand the numbers. It's understanding the numbers gives people confidence to sell things. Understanding the numbers gives your team a better attitude because they understand how much the business actually costs. If you are transparent in your business, that's where it comes from. It's not from like some crazy sales technique of like how to convince people to trick people to go with you. Like that's not it. Knowing your numbers gives you confidence to understand I need this profit to continue to grow my business or to maintain profitability, to pay my team the best, to pay my sub crews the best. Like all these things matter. I got totally off track, but that's exactly what that's
That's how you
the
think about
origin.
it. That's
Yeah.
that's the thought process, which I like. That's really powerful. But let's go back. What is the actual number? What is the number that you believe is the right number for a profit margin on quotes or
It's
range?
I don't think there's a range. I think that minimum is 30% is, I mean, if you're going to go into the poorest, lowest income areas in the country, 30%. And they're like, well, these other guys are doing it for 18 or 20 or 25%. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Those people's numbers don't matter because they are not going to be in business statistically in 2 years or 5 years. Like the numbers do not lie with that. I've only been in business for almost 8 years. No one, like there have been so many companies that have come and gone. So many in my little time being in roofing. And it's only going to increase more and more and more.
So
And
30% is if you're, so what would you sell to a guy that's like, our market is just really tough and we have to do 27%, like 27% is the max we can do on profit margin. What do you tell that person?
I think that you need to improve your process. You need to improve your process and say and explain why. You need to talk about 5-star experiences. Well, they don't care about it. They just want a roof. Okay. Well, there's something that's broken in your process that when we do everything we're supposed to do and we don't do it every time, but we try to do the process that we have for our customers, our homeowners every time. We're answering the phone every single time. We're available online 24 hours a day. Those are 2 things. Just start with those 2 things. If you're not doing those 2 things, forget it. Just stop everything else. You're not going to get the margins that you need.